What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Thanksgiving special matchups breakdown here on DKTV. I'm Socrdave, David Kitchen. Joining me, the three regulars, Adam Levitan. You might know him as the host of the Daily Fantasy Edge podcast. Geoff Ulrich, the Fantasy Grind, who does content for the DraftKings Playbook. And then Andrew Wiggins, a.k.a. Makisupa. And guys, I'm thankful for you three, and I want to know, how are you doing today?
Doing well. Excited for this slate, the Wishbone Classic, my favorite name of any DraftKings tournament. Be awarding $200,000. So I think the first one they ran was $20,000 to first. How far we've come.
I'm just happy that I get to celebrate Thanksgiving for the second time this weekend. So that's pretty awesome.
Yeah. As far as if you're in Canada right now, right? Or you're not in Canada?
I'm in the States actually for the weekend, but.
Oh, nice. Well, enjoy it. And Adam, how are you doing?
I don't know, actually. Some nice border patrol lady.
Adam, how are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm getting ready for my annual tradition of pretending that I'm eating the turkey and actually giving it to Jerry. So that's
that doesn't surprise me at all. Jerry could get a lot of bones if you do win the Wishbone Classic. Like Andrew said, $200,000 to somebody who's going to win this thing, $2 million total prize pool, 3 games, and it's a fun slate to play in this Wishbone Classic, and also it's a fun slate to play with your friends and family. Now they undoubtedly know about DraftKings. They know about daily fantasy, so if you're with your family, you can say, hey, let's just play a game. There's a 3-game slate, and then maybe you tell them to watch this video, or maybe you don't. But anyways, let's get on to the first game. And it is Philly and Detroit. And by the way, guys, I feel like, and Andrew, you can talk about this as you talk about Philly and Detroit, but all 3 of these games are good for daily fantasy. Like, there's no really duds in these games.
Yeah, I mean, one of the interesting things about these 3 games is they all have basically the same total. They're all right around 45, and 2 of the games are 1-point spread, so they should be very competitive. The Bears-Packers game, unfortunately, my Bears might not be so competitive, but we'll get to that. Starting with the first game, I think that this game is going to be very heavily owned. I think a lot of people are going to be looking at Stafford. The Stafford to Megatron combo is always just like the stack that people go to for tournaments. For whatever reason, they love that. I think they think back to the old times when Calvin was having 200-yard games with multiple touchdowns. We haven't seen that in a while. Maybe he'll bring his best for Thanksgiving. I don't really love it for tournaments just because I think it's going to be so heavily owned, but I do think there's some other ways you could go if you want to play Stafford. You could look at Golden Tate, who's been a little bit better as of late. He's only 4.7K. I think he'll be a lot less owned. Ebron's coming off a complete dud of 0 catches last week. He almost hauled in a touchdown on the first drive, and then we didn't see him. He didn't do anything the rest of the game. It's a little dicey there, but maybe you could play him in a tournament. And then Theo Riddick's kind of the tournament running back. When they get behind, they get him in. He catches a bunch of passes. Maybe he breaks something long. He's kind of an interesting way to go to save some money and get someone that probably won't be too owned.
Adam, what are your feelings about this game?
Yeah, just the slate in general. Like, I'm not worried about price at all. It's like, yeah, we could save some money with this guy, but like, what's the point? There's nobody to spend money on. And given the weather situation in Green Bay, Chicago, it's like, I don't even really want to spend on Aaron Rodgers. So my number 1 quarterback on this slate, and maybe overall on the entire slate, is Matthew Stafford. Scored 20 DraftKings points last week without even throwing for a touchdown, and this Eagles defense is just crumbling. Like this, I'm here in Philly, and it's a total disaster. Like, they're yelling at each other. They're going in the media and like saying the fans suck, and then like the players are saying they're tuning out the coach. The defense has given up huge games to guys like Jameis Winston and Tannehill and Matt Castle over the last 3 weeks. This is like a crumbling unit, and on a short week going on the road, I do not think they turn it around. I think Stafford shreds them. The problem with that for tournaments, as Wiggins mentioned, is that everybody is on Stafford Calvin. So, but being the chalk eating person that I am also on Stafford Calvin.
What about the opposite side? What about some Sanchez love? What about some Philly love? Come on, let's let's see some contrarian takes, Geoff.
Yeah, I mean, I think in this matchup, like what Andrew and Adam were saying, Detroit's going to be popular, but Detroit's still not a great team. They're still not a great defense. So I think even thinking about Jordan Matthews as a GPP play for the Wishbone Classic isn't a bad idea. I mean, Matthews he's still a big guy. He's still a slot receiver who can overpower some of those smaller cornerbacks. He can still get lots of yards after the catch. I know Mark Sanchez sucks, but if Detroit does sort of light up the Philly secondary, well, there's going to be a lot of passing by the Eagles. So I think going with like a Matthews Sanchez stack isn't necessarily like that crazy an idea. And I think on a 3-game slate, that's kind of the way you have to think. You have to target those sort of lower owned plays, those lower owned stacks. And I think Matthews might be a good play. I think even Darren Sproles might get more involved. DeMarco Murray, there's all these rumblings that he quit last week, that he kind of slid instead of getting a first down. Maybe Darren Sproles gets a little bit more work this week. I think going with like a Sproles, Matthews, Sanchez stack, it's probably not a bad idea for a tournament. I mean, I think this game has a lot of potential. It's probably going to get ugly because really it's 2 ugly teams. So it's definitely a good one to target for the slate.
All right, I want to go to the tight end whisperer, Andrew Wiggins.
Give him Selleck.
What's that?
Selleck's a great play.
Wiggins is going to talk about Selleck. I know he is.
Yeah, that's what I want. I want a Selleck Sanchez stack. You to give your thoughts on it.
Yeah, I think if you're going to play Sanchez, Selleck's probably my favorite guy. He went, I think, 7 for 75, give or take, last week. Zach Ertz got hurt on the first drive. I think you have to anticipate him throwing a lot this week. Selleck's really cheap, so he might be reasonably owned, frankly, but he's probably the way I would go if I was going to play Sanchez.
All right, let's move to the next game, Carolina at Dallas. And Adam, we'll start with you for this game.
Yeah, so looks like Charles Tillman is doubtful for this game. And so we know Josh Norman is going to be shadowing Des Bryant. We know that the Panthers are going to try to use Benny. I can never say this guy's name right. Benrique. I don't know how to say it, but he's going to be on Terrence Williams. So although Terrence Williams will not see any volume, I do think Terrence Williams is in a spot to produce with Tony Romo. And on the other side of the ball, just the mega chalk at tight end, like the only real viable cash tight end, if you're playing cash, is Greg Olsen. Even though, Dallas is reasonably good against tight ends, it's just Greg Olsen is the only one on the slate that I would really feel comfortable with for cash.
All right, Andrew?
Yeah, I mean, if I were looking at someone in this game, I'd probably be going off the board with, you got to be looking at the injury status of Philly Brown. And if he doesn't go, Funchess kind of stepped in the role last week as basically being the de facto number one. He had 8 targets. He hauled in 4 of them, scored a touchdown. He's 3,900. I don't think people will really be on him too much. He's a guy that I think could potentially be a tournament winner for you this week. And on the Dallas side of the ball, I'm staying away from Des Bryant. Just not going to touch him with Norman. And I think Williams, a guy that is always that tournament winner type character because he's not getting a lot of volume. Everyone that plays DFS has been burned by him at some point. That always keeps his ownership levels down. And he has the potential of breaking 2 long touchdowns, and that's what you need to win. You got to get some guys in there that are a little bit low owned. There's just not enough players in the slate to win this thing by going pure chalk. And he's probably one of the guys I'll be looking at the most as a tournament play.
And who is that guy? Because your internet connection cut out real quick.
That would be Terrence Williams.
Okay.
Good old T-Will.
Good old T-Will. Geoff?
Yeah, I think first of all, both the backs in this game are in pretty good spots. I think that if I was actually picking one of them, I might even go with Jonathan Stewart. I think the Cowboys' run defense is a bit more of their weakness. You obviously have to love the volume McFadden's getting, but he is a little bit banged up. And the Panthers' D it's elite. It's pretty good. So, for a tournament pick, I think I definitely probably choose Stewart over McFadden. I think McFadden is probably the play if you're like building a cash game lineup just because of the volume he's going to get. But I really like the idea of going with the Dallas secondary receivers too. I think I might even take a look at like Cole Beasley and Jason Witten. I think Witten could have a big game. The Panthers have given up a few big games to tight ends. I think using Witten maybe even as a slot as a flex play with Olsen isn't a bad idea. So I do like this game. I like the Dallas secondary receivers, and you have to like both backs. I think Jonathan Stewart's a really sneaky play here, though. I'm kind of curious how owned he'll be. I don't think he'll be super high owned, but I do like the spot for him.
Interesting. I always think that Jonathan Stewart's kind of vanilla, but I mean, Adam cannot stand Jay Stu. Can you, Adam?
Yeah, I actually wrote in my article today, it's on DK Playbook, how much I hate Jonathan Stewart. And I think that in this spot, like, he basically needs 100 yards, like, really pay it off, because he's such a zero in the pass game. I believe he has 5 catches over his last 9 games. And I know his red zone production is coming up, and I don't have any like data on this, but it still feels like Tolbert and Cam Newton are the primary options at the 1 yard line. So like, if he's not going to catch the ball and his touchdown projection is low, he needs to go over 100 yards. And against the Dallas team that just like holds the ball for the entire game and takes 31 seconds between every play, the most in the league, I'm just afraid that Stewart's volume won't be there. But I do think Jonathan Stewart will be pretty popular just because he's had over 20 carries in 6 straight games. Like, you know, not using him has kind of hurt me over the last month or so.
Hey, Adam, do you think that Tolbert might still have a 3-touchdown game in him?
He's got something in him. He's got like a keg in his chest or something like that. He's got something in him. No, I don't think he has a 3-touch. Maybe
2. What about 2? Can we get 2 out of Tolbert?
How many pass interferences are they going to draw in the end zone?
The other thing about Tolbert, too, is that I do think Stewart is going to be owned, and Cam will be owned, too. And if Tolbert somehow had 2 rushing touchdowns, he gets those 1-yard touchdowns, you get him in there for $3K, and you're stealing the touchdowns from those other guys that are pretty heavily owned. And he's not a guy I'd normally consider, but, again, you got to do some weird things on the short slate. And I'd love to see Tolbert take down the Wishbone Classic for someone.
It definitely could happen with you just don't know who's going to get those rushing touchdowns. Jay Stu actually caught a touchdown. Well, 2 of the running backs caught touchdowns, the first 2 touchdowns from Cam last week. So kind of crazy there. And I do feel like there's plenty of options in that game, but this next game, Chicago and Green Bay. Actually, Geoff, did I go to you?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay. I just want to make sure. I'm going to start with you. I just want to make sure I ended with you. Chicago at Green Bay. And this game feels like there are a ton of options compared to the other ones. And you don't really feel great about any of the options, but there are a ton of those options. So, Geoff, I'll start with you as far as your thought process on this late game.
Yeah, this one's a little bit tricky, mainly because of injuries, especially on the Chicago side. So it looks like Matt Forte is going to play. I don't think that's confirmed or anything, but if he does, there's a potential for a big workload because Alshon Jeffrey's questionable. So if he doesn't play, there's going to be a lot more targets or possibly more targets for Forte and more runs for Forte. Martellus Bennett's questionable. If he doesn't play, Zach Miller's definitely someone I'd think about considering how brutal the Packers were at covering Kyle Rudolph last weekend. So there's some interesting players on Chicago to consider, but I think if Matt Forte plays, I think he's a running back I would definitely put in a lot of lineups just because of the volume that I think he's going to get. So I think that's the first thing that I'm kind of looking at in this game, how it's going to break down with the injuries. From the Green Bay side, I'm kind of interested in their run game too. This is supposed to be a brutally cold game, windy, snow. The Packers got Eddie Lacy going this last weekend. It's obviously hard to trust him. I think most people are going to have trouble putting him in their lineup, but this game just suits Eddie Lacy so much. Cold, snowy. He's such a big guy. And yeah, we should probably get the like Lacy's going to eat on Thanksgiving jokes out of the way quick. But
he wants that turkey leg, that post-game turkey leg so bad. Yeah,
exactly. So, I mean, he's extra motivated. I think this is a good spot for him. I mean, I think the Packers are going to keep trying to get him going. So I really like Eddie Lacy in this game. I like both running backs. I think Chicago, you have to be kind of careful. I would like Alshon Jeffrey in this matchup if I knew he was healthy, but you're just not going to know until Thursday morning, I think. So that's something to consider.
All right, Andrew?
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt that Jay Cutler is going to be the lowest owned quarterback on the slate, and frankly, for good reason. He struggled against the Packers, in particular at Lambeau Field. I think I saw that he has 3 touchdowns to 12 interceptions up there. And the weather being bad doesn't help matters. Low team total, it's a scary spot, and I think people are going to stay away. But for that reason, especially if Alshon plays, I kind of like Cutler and Alshon. You know that they can put points on the board. You know that Alshon is his number 1 target and that he's going to lock into him. So at least you know you're stacking the right guy. And you just hope that maybe something's clicking for him that week. So I really do like looking at them. Forte has always had a good track record against Green Bay. I like him as well. I think that's an interesting way to go. And if you're looking at cash games, I mean, the Packers, to go to the other direction, they got to be the best play because Cutler's basically a lock to throw one touchdown. And if they can run that one back, he'll be looking pretty good.
What about the obscure Chicago receivers, Adam? Like, you got the potential for Marcus Wilson or Bellamy to be what do you
the Marquise money stuff.
Oh, gotcha. I was not getting that sign at first. Okay.
Yeah, so everybody on Chicago is banged up. I would be surprised if Eddie Royal plays. The Alshon situation is touch and go. Marquise is on the injury report. So I don't know. Like, if Alshon and Eddie Royal are ruled out, then yeah, I mean, give me Marquise. I'm not going to play Josh Bellamy. I think the guy that Geoff mentioned is very interesting, and Zach Miller, a relatively athletic tight end. And even if Martellus Bennett does play, they've been using Zach Miller a lot in 2 tight end sets. So, and while we're on that subject, Martellus doesn't really look healthy either. He's kind of lumbering around out there. So, the snow conditions kind of have me a little bit wary of going too big on the Rodgers plays, but I don't know. Nobody's mentioned Randall Cobb. Am I crazy for being on Randall Cobb?
What's the deal with him? Is he hurt? I mean, he's been bad. And I think I remember seeing a quote like 4 weeks ago where he said, like, I'm not sure I'll ever feel right this season. And there hasn't been a lot of talk about him.
I think. I mean, it's not stopping him from getting open. Terrible. I don't think. I mean, he does have a very, very plus matchup in this game, and I still think he's Rodgers' favorite target. We would probably say that James Jones is close too now that his kind of lost confidence in Devontae Adams. So I would go Cobb and James Jones pretty close, I would say.
Yeah, and it just feels like this Wishbone Classic is going to be determined by the wide receivers that you get right. Like, there are going to be somebody that goes off. My hot take for this Wishbone Classic will be Jay Cutler will win someone $200,000.
There you go.
You're like a Cutler truther. This is like the second time in 3 weeks you've been about Cutler.
Cutler is a Vandy guy, and he and I go way back. So, Smoking Jay's my boy.
There's a baby narrative.
Don't care.
He just had his 3rd kid. Jay Cutler did.
Yeah, and what's funny is that I could not stand his wife when I was in college watching the OC. But anyways, we'll move on for that into more positive things of what we're thankful for. And a quarterback that I'm thankful for this season is Cam Newton. I think it has to do with me drafting him. I only did 1 season-long league this year with the college buddies I always do, but I drafted him. I believed in him. And for as many weeks that I've got Gronk wrong, I've got Cam right. And I have been with him for the majority of the season. So thank you, Cam Newton, for righting the wrongs that other players or injuries have. So I'm thankful for Cam Newton. I want to get your guys' take. Andrew, we'll start with you first.
Yeah, I'm thankful that Johnny Football can't help himself and that McCown is back running the team. And I finally get my opportunity to win a bunch of money with Gary Gronkage. He's in a good spot this week. His price is right. Maybe he can win me $1 million on Sunday. So thank you, Johnny Football.
All right. Adam?
I'm thankful for Brandon Browner, who has week in and week out refused to let us down as being, bar none, the worst cornerback in the entire league. That's
like that's such an Adam Levitan thankful for segment. I'm thankful that this guy is the worst. And Andrew kind of did the same thing. Geoff, do you have anything positive to say?
Not really. I'm thankful that the San Diego Chargers have been so bad this year because it means Phillip Rivers is throwing like 50 times a game and the entire San Diego offense has been completely easy to predict. So I love the fact I've just been able to march Rivers out and Stevie Johnson and a couple other cheap wide receivers and Antonio Gates out every week and know what I'm getting. And I know, Danny Woodhead, the game he caught like 10 passes on one drive. That was awesome too. So I'm thankful for the San Diego Chargers being like 2-8 or whatever. That's been great.
Well, like I said earlier, I'm thankful for you guys. I'm thankful for everybody that watches this show week after week. Make sure you're getting into at least one lineup into the $2 million Wishbone Classic, $20 entry, $200,000 top prize. That would be a pretty good dessert tomorrow, if you know what I'm saying. So I'm all about that dessert life. Guys, good luck this week, and we will see you next time.